Alright, it's bedtime, I want a story now.
Alright, calm down. Alright, I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a giant, and he lived in the forest. And he was walking along in the forest, and he saw up in the tree a monkey. And Monkey! I play the monkey card. I get to tell the story now. No, you don't. It's me telling the story now.
No, it's in the rules.
No. Anyway, and he saw a monkey up in the tree. And he said to the monkey, "What are you doing up in that tree, monkey?" And he,
Oh, it's hesitation. You have to draw a new card now, and then the story goes to me. And
No, you're the one going to sleep. I'm the one telling the story now.
It's in the rules.
Anyway, and he said, "What are you doing up in that tree, monkey?" And the monkey said, "I'm hiding, giant." And the giant said, "Come down." And he said, "No, there's an evil witch who's going to cast a spell on
Deviation.
me."
There was no witch in the story before. You said the witch had died.
I've had enough of this.
Is that your ending card? It doesn't match up very well. You have to draw a new one and start the story all over again. Elaine!
In reverse turn order, starting with the player whose disc is in the bottom slot of the passing column, each player moves 2 workers from his home onto 2 different fields.
Are you going to do board game fort again?
No, I'm just really tired of all these strategic board games with all the rules and things. I just want to play something really light and easy.
Yeah, right, I'm coming, hang on. Guess I better get the milk bottle. This is Once Upon a Time. If you think you're too old for fairy tales, don't worry, you're not. People have always enjoyed telling stories ever since we began to speak, and this game is just great at it. In this box, you get these cards, and all there is to the game is whenever you say a word that's on the card, you play the card, and when you've played all your cards, you've won.
No, that's not true. Actually, if you get stuck and then...
No, that's it.
No, because if you're contradicting the story...
No, that's all there is to it.
But you have to draw extra card.
No.
Let's elaborate. Throughout the course of the game, one of the players will be randomly determined to be the storyteller. Now, they will start telling a fairy tale that they're coming up with by themselves. And they will have a hand of cards. Now, most of these cards will be just either these regular cards that have a word and a picture on them, or they will be cards that have a word and the word interrupt on them. And they will have one card that is the end of the story card. So this is that player's goal. They're trying to reach that end of the story and have it be their last sentence. Now, every time they mention the word on one of the cards in a meaningful way in the story, they get to play it. And anytime they mention something that's on another player's card and you don't know what's in their hands, they get to play their card and they get to take over the story and be the storyteller. Now, this is the great part of the game because once you eventually manage to pry it back from their hands and continue your version of the adventure, you have to sort of incorporate it and make it be cohesive and make it make sense and still push it towards the end that you have in your hand.
The way interrupt cards works is like this. If someone plays a card and you have the same colour and symbol and a card that says interrupt, you can play it straight over the top. You don't have to incorporate the word on the card into the story. So for example, if someone played this card and said, this chair comes alive, you don't have to say then, yeah, and it's dying, because that wouldn't make any sense.
No, it wouldn't. But how about instead of explaining this, we just show it to you, really?
Once upon a time, there was indeed a princess.
Fantastic.
And she was a very happy princess. She was...
Did you say happy?
Yes, I did.
Well, then draw a card. Yes, she was indeed a very happy princess.
So she walked up to this kitchen and she said, oh, do you think you could maybe cook some fish? And the cook there said, oh, well, let me check my book. I can make you a wonderful meal out of this fish. So, but she said,
She took him up the stairs and to her tower and said, you live in the tower? And she said, yes, I'm going to reveal you something that I have hidden from you. I was about to play this. I was literally going to put this down now and say the ending.
Okay.
Playing cards is not the only way you can take over a story. There are various other rules that let you do so, called challenges, and that's what we mean when they say there aren't really any more rules, because they're not rules. They're an understanding you form together with the other players at the table. It's an ethos that you get behind. And if the table is in sync with you, then you're going to have a wonderful time. And if it's not, then you're just going to hate yourself and it's going to be a bit rubbish. And the way it works is there are just a couple of things you can challenge a player on. First of all, it's hesitation. So if they go, and instead of the story there's cogwork monkeys playing cymbals in your brains, then you're just going to stop and not know what to say. And that's when another person can say, hesitation, and you need to give up the story and let someone else tell it. Now, the other way you can do it is by contradicting what's happened before. And because you're not the only player who's telling the story, this will happen quite often because you've forgotten what the other person came up with. And the third way is probably the worst offense in my book, and that is listing. So that happens when you kind of have a bunch of cards in your hand and do something like this.
Once upon a time, there was a beggar, and the beggar was reading a book, and the book came alive and turned into a frog, and the frog hopped down a well, and there was a witch down the well who was dying, and she lived in a cave which broke.
Do you see what I mean? The game is great, in summary, if you and your friends can agree on sort of a mutual understanding of what's going on and what you're doing, and if you don't, it's just not that good. And having said that, I love it. I think it's wonderful. And if you're hesitating about sitting around a table with a bunch of other adults and telling fairy tales, don't, because you'll find that wonderful things happen. And one of our stories, instead of being happy-go-lucky and, you know, with a positive ending, everyone just kept dying. All the main characters kept dying because of this or that, and they were having a miserable time. They were cursed and they couldn't fall in love, and you know, you think, well, hopefully some redemption is going to come at the end, and it didn't. They just all had a rubbish time and died, and it was gruesome and dark, but fun at the same time. We all laughed, and that's why I really like it. And the game does kind of struggle with just 2 players, so ideally you want at least 3 or 4. 6 might be a little bit too much. Because there's so many of you telling a story at the same time, and it's the same story, and you've all forgotten what's going on, and it's just a bit of a jumble. And with 2 players, you don't find enough opportunity to take the story over and push it in a new direction. And a couple of times we played a 2-player game, and one person just sat down and played all the cards and told the story, and that was it. having said that, you can always play again because the game takes about 20-30 minutes at most. And if the story didn't quite work this time, it can work another time. And I love this game. It's lovely. It's been on my shelf for ages, and it's going to stay there. And what we do understand is that this review has been a little bit short, so we spiced it up a bit. We added something extra. We're giving you something very, very cool. We invited a special guest, and his name is Bojangles, and he's going to give you some very, very handy tips on gaming.
Is this thing on? Are we going? Do I do this now? Alright. It's Bojangles with another video for you coming from the internet. The internet's right. It's on the internet, okay. To make Bojangles an internet star. So this time I thought I would tell you about games, because you know Bojangles is a fun sort of guy. I enjoy games. One little tip though to begin with, don't ever play games for money. Bojangles has got himself in a lot of trouble playing games for money. Not a good idea. First, of course, you're going to need some friends. If you haven't got any friends, go grab some people off the street. They won't mind. Offer them a drink, they won't care. You're going to make friends. That's the whole point of this. Go and get your friends. Sit them down, ready to play the game. Now, the first tip I would give you after that is maybe if you know the game, don't explain the rules too well. That way you can win more easily. I would also say if you are struggling a little bit with the game and there's, you know, you're playing and you're not playing very well and you think, I'm going to lose. I tell you what though, if you're not playing for money, who gives a shit anyway? It doesn't matter if you're not playing for money. But anyway, if you think you're losing, you can always say to them, you know, distract them in some way. Say, oh look, there's a cat wandered in off the street. It doesn't matter if there's no cat there, that's the whole point. And then while they're looking for the cat, you can shuffle around the pieces or the cards. And that way you can give yourself a one-up on there. What else can I say? Well, the other thing is, I tell you what, if they bugger up something, tell them they've bugged it up. And maybe even, if you're losing especially, just flip the board and walk out. That's a really good thing too. I would say as well, take something with you to get you through those difficult times when they're being boring, and there will be boring people. Just take something to get you through those times. So if you need to, you know, have a little drinky poo, then you do that. That's a good tip. And that was Bojangles the Clown's tips on gaming. Don't forget, kiddies, I'm available for bar mitzvahs, birthdays, or any other event that pays.